Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and today I'm back to talk about more upcoming games. This time we're looking at some of the major Souls-likes we've seen recently, some with very high potential and very fun concepts that bring something different to the table. As far as Souls-likes often go, it's a similar core that then brings something fresh to the table. A good example of that would be, say, Code Vein, where we had the code system, letting you completely respec and use different weapons and different builds constantly. Or perhaps, say, the Surge series, which had a clever mechanic in which you could target a specific body part to steal the equipment of that, or target it because it's got no armor and it's vulnerable. The standout Souls-likes usually have a strong concept, satisfying gameplay, and then also bring something new to the genre. Today we're looking at 4 upcomers which promises exactly that. Let's start with the Lies of P. A weird name, but one that recently had its gameplay finally revealed at Gamescom opening night. Visually, this is an impressive game. Quite colourful despite its dark nature. There's something special about the atmosphere of this one. But the story is what surprised me the most. Here's the concept. The retelling of the story of Pinocchio. Yeah, I didn't think that when I first saw the game and its gameplay. I didn't think of this guy. I did not think of Pinocchio. A year back, we had this simple and intriguing story trailer following what turned out to be Geppetto, your father, dragging this heavy box through an old Victorian-style city. This character is able to defeat easily what would appear to be a giant mechanical monster, progressing through streets filled with the dead. Lots of references here to the plague. I guess he was collecting parts to create us, Pinocchio, which was revealed at the end of that trailer. The simple goal of our character then? Well, become human, obviously. This is a really interesting setting for a weird retelling of the Pinocchio story based on Souls-like combat. Now, our version of the story takes place in the city of Krat in the late 1800s. After yet a plague has killed most of the humans, we wake up as Pinocchio with no information besides a note that stuck to us, telling us to find our father. It's not just the plague you'll deal with, however. They claim the city is filled with unspeakable horrors, which I assume is these nightmarish robots. You need to choose between the truth or lies at many turns, suggesting you'll need to lie to become human. So I'm very interested by this weird retelling. It sounds like there's going to be radically different results based on your choices in the game. That sounds good, but the gameplay needs to be good for this game to be worth talking about. So let's talk about that. We're looking at a third-person action RPG in the style of Soulsborne, a Souls-like game. People are associating this one more with Bloodborne than anything else, likely due to the aesthetic of the city. In this case, the devs have literally stated this game is a Souls-like or Souls-inspired game, and in combat we face off against the robot monsters and what they're also calling puppets. But since we're a robot ourselves, we have unusual powers, letting us use modified body parts to great advantage. Ripping open safes with our metal arm, firing with a cannon we can transform from our own body, and a set of weapons we're going to swap between to use as well. Apparently based on which weapons we're using and in which combination, you'll have different options with their strengths and weaknesses. We can also further enhance our weapons as well. There's a moment where we set one on fire, for example, and in the UI we can see aspects of that. We have a health and stamina bar, notches in blue likely for those enhancements or special abilities. We have consumables and our current weapon equipped. So far I've seen a nice variety of weapons in the trailer. The movement looks a bit weird. It has moments where it looks kind of heavy and then moments where it looks kind of floaty. The actual attacking and combat seems to be a bit heavy, but then we're zipping around in surprising ways, so I'm not really sure what to make of it. At times that hit weight looks a bit strange, so I hope they can get that right. It's vital that a game like this has good hit weight so it feels good when you land a blow. For the important details though, the game is set to release sometime 2023 and is in dev by Round 8, published by the South Korean company NeoWiz. It's coming to current gen, Xbox Series X and S, PS5 and PC, as well as previous gen as well. Conceptually, I think this is impressive. It's an intriguing world and story, enough for me to be interested. Visually, it looks wonderful. While the gameplay, it has potential, I just hope it feels good to play. That makes or breaks a game like this. Moving on from that then, let's now talk about a pretty weird one. The Lords of the Fallen, version 2? A long since dead Souls-like, which was, well, not great. A bit generic, rather shallow, that's how I describe it. It was developed by Deck 13 and CI Games, who went on to release games like the Surge games, which I do think had merit and showed a lot of improvement, both conceptually and mechanically. The original Lords of the Fallen was what I would call the most generic version of a copy of a Souls game. Simplistic boss fights, generally shallow gameplay, and particularly weird enemy placement in the levels as far as I remember. Not to mention the awful characters in its story. It's not exactly a glowing review from me, I know that, but I will say that I appreciated the attempt. The atmosphere was strong. Visually, it was impressive. The sound design of that game was great. They had potential. It just felt like they were inexperienced and, yeah, made a lot of mistakes, which is why when they went forward with the Surge, which was a totally different and more unique concept, I was happy to see that. So now I have high hopes for this sequel, remake, reboot thing. Hopefully they can take what was a bland game and make it a bit more interesting. Originally the game released in 2014, where you would try to fight off the demon invasion in standard Souls-like gameplay. One thing I remember about the gameplay though was the weight. You were so heavy in all your actions, and the enemies were the same. It could feel pretty good when you're colliding and landing good hits, but it always felt a bit slow, like you're knee deep in like a swamp. Now we're rebooting the game, still called Lords of the Fallen, not necessarily Lords of the Fallen 2. And while it is a reboot, technically it's a sequel because this is set 1,000 years after the events of the first game. Now, not much is known about the gameplay of the reboot yet. We did see some fun combat scenes in the cinematic. Once again, heavy armor and a heavy style of combat, but with some impressive, more realistic use of a Zweihander, which is neat. Much like the original, it looks like you can be killed and then revived to reclaim what you've lost, which is a classic Souls-like concept. Here are the facts and what we know though. There's no release date yet. They've just announced the game after all. It will release on current gen, so PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and PC, and will be a much bigger game than the original. CI Games said that it would be 5 times larger and used the term open world as well, so that's definitely different. Also in the trailer, the narrator was Joseph Quinn, everyone's favorite season 4 Stranger Things actor, so yeah, that was clever. Overall though, I think this was a very unexpected announcement, but I am intrigued. It's good to have more Souls-likes going on, pushing the genre forward, and while the original was simply not a great game, they have had lots of time and experience to come back and do a better job. So I'm hopeful. Next up for upcoming Souls-like though, let's talk about Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Team Ninja is back again with a new game concept outside of their recent, very successful Souls-like series, Neo. This one looks crazy though. You got demon zombies, super-powered melee fighting, elixirs that transform people into monsters, and more classic Eastern myth like the Serpent Dragon. Although there's definitely something wrong with this one. There's a lot to take in here, but the developers are well respected and know their craft, so if nothing else, we know the gameplay is going to be very fun, which we will see shortly. You play as a nameless soldier, simply fighting to survive in the Han Dynasty. Demons plague the 3 kingdoms though, and you'll fight both monsters and men using Chinese martial art style of sword play. As shown in the cinematic trailer, we also have some superpowers to use of. I assume that's the Eternal Elixir Field that they refer to, which is a strange name. But these superpowers are shown by the veins of gold running through your body, leading to that hyper-fast and strong abilities. The game was only recently revealed in the Xbox Showcase back in June, but since then we have had a new gameplay trailer which shows that very impressive combat. Super fast-paced, counters and evades lead to a sort of an aerial style of combat where you can control the opponent through their own weight, leaping and launching from target to target, and we saw a variety of weapons from a larger sword to dual-wielded blades to like a halberd or spear, along with the magical powers we apparently have. We can set our weapon on fire, we can strike lightning in a target area, or summon allies like this literal phoenix. There's also a nice variety of enemies so far that we've seen in the gameplay. Be they human or monster, the monsters, the demons, they look like they're being mutated by it rather than fully transformed, and I think it's kind of a cool, unique look. I really like the look of this gameplay though. The weight looks perfect. You can tell that it's heavily inspired by real actual martial art, but enhanced by the ridiculousness of your speed, your strength, and the magic. So I'm really excited to try this. They've mentioned there'll be a playable demo at the upcoming Tokyo Game Show, so we'll see what people make of that. Its release is planned early 2023, meaning we won't have overly long to wait on this, and I really appreciate that. It's coming to current gen and old gen, and while details remain sparse beyond that, we do have some details from this tweet, stating that we're going to have character creator, the gameplay is going to be very challenging, much like their previous games. It's going to use a new morale system, so maybe that means impactful choices on the story, and then the weapons are all tied to known Chinese martial arts. I think the gameplay looks incredible, so I'm really looking forward to Wo Long. Last but not least, our 4th exciting Souls-like to anticipate is of course the known Black Myth Wukong. Certainly not recently announced or revealed like the others. This is one I've spoken about a few times in different videos, so I'm going to keep this simple and up to date with what we know. This high in potential game is about Wukong and that classic Journey to the West storyline. Coming from a new dev team with a lot of promise, this is the Chinese studio Game Science. Wukong is a character who uses the common magic of transformation to incredible effect, showing just how powerful this magic can be. We'll be able to transform into tons of different forms for travel, for stealth, or even combat, and use the powers that come with that transformation, whether that's raw strength thanks to your size, element damage based on a form you've stolen from an enemy you've defeated, or transforming your staff to increase its range and effect. Overall, the magic of this game looks really cool. There seems to be a lot of variety. I found with an indie developer like this, where they're able to show this many fun and interesting ideas, not only really exciting, but I think that screams passion and a lot of innovation. I just hope that they're able to achieve what they're planning here, because it seems pretty big. Excitement was high for this game originally. For its first trailer back on IGN, it has 10 million views. That was revealed 2 years ago back in 2020. Since then though, things have been a bit quiet with some reveals here and there. We had 3 more trailers. The first one was back in the original area, but then the second was in this different desert style section. A third was up in the snowy mountaintops, and the fourth is back in that similar original area, but things are a bit different. The UI seems to have come a long way. Now we can see 4 special abilities equipped at once on the right. We seem to have 3 stances to swap between, a health, a mana, and an energy bar at the bottom left, and also tools or consumables to swap between. This new gameplay leads into a new section against another dragon type. This one's a bit smaller and on all 4s compared to the big white one. This fight and area is a lot darker and gritty by comparison. We see some magic abilities in this boss fight though. The player able to use the time stop on the enemy, holding it in place. Each time you land a perfect evade, you leave an illusion behind which might distract the enemy. And then this rather gross transformation, just a thing to slam into the monster. Unlike the other trailers though, this ends in defeat. The player leaps up to set the staff on fire for a cool finishing blow, and then gets interrupted and just defeated. I like this. This shows more visual and atmospheric range compared to the other trailers. This looks like more of a realistic way the gameplay will pan out compared to the earlier trailers where it was all conceptual. The details we know is that it's planned to come to current gen, so yeah, Xbox Series X, PS5, PC, and they originally claimed that it will only release when it's good and ready, when they're satisfied. But in interviews they have said they hope for 2023 as a release year, but from what I've heard between rumors and interviews, the game again is a massive undertaking for a small studio. While it has a lot of potential, they've got a lot to do to fulfill promises they've made. I think 2023 is a bold and maybe overly hopeful timeline based on that, and maybe 2024 is more realistic. Still, great concept, very fun looking gameplay. I remain very interested in Wukong. But there you have it. Those are the 4 Souls-like games that I wanted to highlight and discuss today. What did you think? Out of the 4, I would say my favorite gameplay-wise is Wo Long easily. Team Ninja really know what they're doing, and that looked to be the best combat of any of their games so far, and that says a lot. While conceptually, I think Lies of P is very special. A really unique twist on that story. I just hope the gameplay can live up to it. For now though, that's everything for this video. If you've enjoyed this roundup and discussion, drop a like so I can make more videos like this in the future. Until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.